Why is it that when you start pulling back in a relationship, thinking you're protecting yourself, she seems to get more anxious, more clingy, or sometimes completely shuts down? What I'm about to tell you will completely change how you see this dynamic. But here's the thing, most guys get this backwards, and I'll explain why in a moment. But first, let me tell you what's really happening in her mind when you pull back, because understanding this is just the beginning. There are 3 deeper layers to this that most people never discover, and the third one will shock you. When you start pulling back, whether it's responding to texts less or becoming emotionally distant, her nervous system doesn't interpret this as you needing space. It interprets it as a threat. And I'm not talking about some dramatic, conscious thought process. I'm talking about something much more primal that triggers a response you probably don't expect. From an evolutionary standpoint, connection meant survival. Being abandoned meant death. So when she senses you pulling away, her brain's alarm system starts firing. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is something most relationship advice gets completely wrong. The first thing she secretly feels is confusion. She starts replaying every recent interaction, looking for clues about what changed. Did I say something wrong? Did I do something? This mental loop can consume her for hours. But this confusion is just the surface level. There's something much deeper happening that I need to explain. That confusion quickly transforms into anxiety, not the kind you can just breathe through. This is the kind that sits in your chest and keeps you awake wondering if everything you thought was solid is crumbling. But wait, because what happens next is where most guys completely misunderstand the situation. She starts analyzing your behavior with the intensity of a detective. Your response time becomes data. Your tone becomes evidence. Every small change feels magnified because her nervous system is hypervigilant. And this is where many guys get it completely wrong, thinking this creates attraction, but it doesn't. And I'll tell you what it actually creates in a moment. But first, here's what you need to understand about the psychology behind this. When someone you care about becomes less available, it doesn't make you think they're more valuable. It makes you think you're less valuable to them. She starts questioning her worth in your eyes. But this isn't even the worst part. The cruel irony is that the more anxious she becomes, the more likely she is to do things that push you further away. She might reach out more, asking if everything's okay. And when you're already pulling back, this feels overwhelming, which makes you want more space. It's a vicious cycle. But here's what's really dangerous about this cycle that no one talks about. You pull back, she gets anxious, her anxiety makes her reach out more, which makes you want more space, so you pull back further. Neither of you is trying to hurt the other, but you're caught in this dance. And this dance leads to something that might surprise you. Now, let's talk about what she's feeling, but not saying, because this is where it gets really complex. She's feeling rejected, but she doesn't want to seem needy. She's feeling scared you're losing interest, but she doesn't want to seem insecure. She's feeling like maybe she was wrong about your connection, but she doesn't want to seem dramatic. So instead of telling you what's really going on, she starts acting differently. She might become more critical, picking fights about small things because it's easier to argue about dishes than to say, I'm scared you don't want me anymore. Or she might pull back herself as protection. But there's a third response that's even more telling. She might become more people-pleasing, trying to win back your attention by being perfect. None of these are conscious strategies. They're just what happens when someone feels their security being threatened. But here's what most guys don't realize about this process. When you pull back, you're not just affecting her feelings about the relationship, you're affecting her feelings about herself. She starts wondering if she's too much, if she's not enough, if there's something fundamentally wrong with her. The woman who was confident when you were present might start doubting everything about herself when you become distant. And here's the part that might be hardest to hear. Sometimes when you pull back, you're not protecting the relationship or creating healthy space. Sometimes you're running from intimacy, from the scary prospect of someone mattering to you. But this avoidance creates something much worse than you think. If that's what's happening, your pulling back isn't strategy, it's avoidance. And she can sense it, even if she can't name it. She can feel the difference between someone who needs space to recharge and someone who's retreating because they're scared. This difference changes everything about how she responds. But here's what she actually needs when you feel like pulling back, and this is crucial. She needs honesty, not brutal honesty, but clear communication about what's actually going on with you. If you need space, tell her why and for how long. If you're overwhelmed, explain what's overwhelming you. But communication alone isn't enough. She needs reassurance that your need for space isn't about her worth. She needs to know that pulling back doesn't mean pulling away permanently. She needs to understand that your distance is about your process, not her value. But there's something even more important than reassurance. Most importantly, she needs to feel like you're on the same team, working through whatever is making you want distance together, rather than feeling like opponents where your need for space means her need for connection is wrong. This teamwork approach changes the entire dynamic, but only if you understand one crucial thing. The truth is, healthy relationships require both connection and space, both intimacy and independence. But when these needs aren't communicated clearly, when pulling back happens without context, it creates insecurity and anxiety that makes real intimacy impossible. And this is where most relationships fail. Your need for space is valid. Her need for security is valid. The key is finding ways to honor both without sacrificing either. And that starts with understanding that when you pull back without explanation, you're not creating space, you're creating fear. But fear isn't the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that fear destroys the very connection you might actually be trying to protect. So the next time you feel the urge to pull back, ask yourself this question. Am I creating space or am I creating distance? Because understanding the difference between these two things will determine whether your relationship grows stronger or falls apart. And here's the truth that ties everything together. The way you handle your need for space will either build trust or destroy it. It will either create security or anxiety. It will either bring you closer together or push you further apart. The choice is yours, but now you know what she's really feeling when you make it.